How we doing? Dan Hunt here with Meraki Performance. Excited to be back. Like always, another edition and episode of Heads or Tails, where we dive into both sides of program development as it relates to really the individual mindsets, the head side of it as it relates to individuals within your teams, especially focusing in athletics here, or the flip side of tails and how those mindsets actually collectively come together to build the team mentality. And so we're excited to be back and to be talking through, some topics that you guys are bringing up. And just to share a little bit of vision, actually, the original reason why we started this was to be a resource here for coaches, especially in West Michigan, but whoever wants to engage in this, if you are interested in really diving in and trying to develop the mental side of your athletes and your teams, all right? We work within this space and have for quite a while, and we hear all the time how, one, there's not enough resources, and even if there is, it's like, where's the rubber meet the road? Where's the action? How do we go about this? I don't know what to do. I don't know how to go about this. And so we come on here once a month and we talk through some things that, either A, people come to us and ask questions about, or B, in just interactions like, hey, here's a topic we've been talking about. We've been hearing a lot about. We want to bring things to you and be able to say, here's our thoughts based on, our experience, our research, our knowledge in this around physiology, and really leveraging that, and psychology and leveraging that for individual athletes and teams' greatest performance. All right. And so we lean in and talk about how do you leverage physiology, psychology for peak performance. Okay. And the thing that we want to really dive into today, okay, is that we want to dive into this idea around character. All right. I hear this quite often, where, hey, coach, we're having a conversation. Where do you think is what's an area you think you can really lean into and develop this year that's really going to make an impact for your team? And I hear this all the time, character. We don't have kids that have character. We don't have kids that have character, and when you drill down, what do you mean by that? What do you mean? Right. And they start giving these character attributes. Okay. And so what I thought would be interesting today is for some coaches, some programs, and we're going to talk more about two coaches here today, and even for leaders within teams, this can be applicable to you. But we want to talk through character, one, what our thoughts are on that, but then two, how do you begin to build and leverage and start talking about that and really ingraining that from both a mindset standpoint, a head side of the tails or heads side of the coin standpoint, as well as the tails side of the coin. All right. The mentality collectively. Okay. And so I think that a lot of times when we talk about character, we talk about it, one of this missing attribute that people have. They just don't have character. They just don't have the thing. They just don't, right? And so we do it from a deficit place right off the bat. It's the thing they don't have, all right? And what we do a lot of times is we just leave it at that, is that there's some sort of inherent missing piece that it's like, man, if they had it, gosh, if they had this thing, we just don't have it, right? And one thing that I want to say right off the bat with character is that it can be developed, right? It absolutely can be developed, okay? And there's ways that you can develop, but one of the biggest things I want people to understand is that with whatever the characteristic you want your team to have, you need to take the approach that it's a skill that can be developed. You need to take the approach in the perspective that whatever it is, that missing piece, that it can be instilled and developed within your team or individual players, okay? It's skill. It's skill. It's going in there and saying, there's this missing thing, all right? There's this thing I want you to develop within you. There's this characteristic I want you to embody, and so I want to do X, Y, and Z to help you develop skills so that you can exhibit that, right? So that you can embody that. Okay. It's a skill. You can develop characteristics and characteristic skills, right? These are things that you can over time embody. All right. That's a big, big thing, because so often I hear that excuse of, oh, this character, they just don't have the character. And man, if their parents, right? And vice versa. I hear this from parents all the time. Oh, it's so-and-so. It's like, man, the coach, it's like, you have to understand that if there is a missing piece, quote unquote, that you believe is missing, that you are in a place of influence and leadership to lean in and help develop that. Okay? That's my challenge. And I'm a firm believer and have seen this both with individual athletes and even programs of, hey, here's this missing piece. Okay, let's go about it and let's develop the skills necessary. Let's develop that trait within them. Okay, let's put them in situations where they have to develop that capacity. All right, and let's see what happens. Let's actually go in there and do the work. And so I want us to have that perspective that it's a skill. All right, and here's the thing as you break this down is that there's performance capacities, all right? And then there's moral capacities, I would say, okay? And this is great information that if you want a great resource, somebody that has come out with this and articulates this really, really well is Brett Ledbetter, okay? And back in 2014, 15, he came out with What Drives Winning, right? Character drives the process drives winning. And I really have seen this pattern or even principle in the work that I do. And I see it very evident in other spaces as well. This doesn't just apply to athletics. This applies to business and outside of that as well. But all that to say, he boils it down to like two, that you have performance and you have moral. And here's what I'll say about both of them is that, again, they're skill, okay? And the thing with performance is it's what, a lot of times what you do. It's the what. It's the what you do. It's how you execute on it, all right? Or it's what you're executing, okay? And with that performance thing, that's what we focus on so often. And I think it's really important that we focus on that. That a lot of times is the output, okay? It's the demonstration of it, okay? But the thing that we miss often is that there's the moral component that informs the actual performance. It's the moral characteristics that inform the performance characteristics. And I would phrase it this way. It's the performance skills or characteristics that will actually get you the job or put you in the starting role or whatnot, whatever that may be. But it's the moral characteristics that actually keep you there. It's the moral characteristics that allow you to elevate. It's the moral characteristics that continue to help you develop. And what we zoom in on as coaches and leaders all too often, I would even say as athletes, is what's the performance characteristics? What's the what? I need to be able to do this better. I need to be able to do this better. I need to be able to, whatever that skill is. And that is very, very important. I don't hear what I'm not saying. That is absolutely important. But the thing is that if you are hitting a wall or you have a team that is not able to elevate, what you're missing is that moral character. Like you're missing those components of the who they are and the maximizing characteristics to actually develop the performance characteristics and break through, or develop those skills that they need to break through. Okay. And I see this all the time. It's like we get to that place. Like the other day, I was working with a group of athletes. Here's a great example. And, we're talking through like, what does the next season look like? What do we want to, what are some goals that we have? All the typical conversations, which I think are necessary. They're foundational. They're casting vision for us. Where are we going? What are we trying to do? We need those things. Those are necessary. But then I asked this question of, why do you play the sport that you do? Like, what is the reasoning behind this? Why do you do this? Why do you give so much, right? And they gave an answer that isn't necessarily wrong, okay? I want to be the best I can be. Love it, right? I want to be the best I can be at this. I want to be able to reach my potential in this, and I absolutely love this. But the interesting thing about this is that none of those responses had anything to do with anybody else on the team. None of the responses had anything to do with pushing the other team, with the team elevating, with the team reaching their potential, with like pushing teammates to be at their best. Like the only component was, hey, I just want to be at my best. And the thing that this program continues to hit is that there are a bunch of individuals that want to be at their best. And as long as they are doing their best, or they potentially are getting the stats, or they're getting the views, or people are looking at them as, hey, they're the guy, then a lot of these individuals are going, okay, I'm good. I'm all right. And so the characteristic that's missing is the team. The characteristic that's missing is, service or selflessness or some humility or things that allow them to actually connect and be seen by others and push together as a team. That's the characteristics that are missing. Those are the moral components. So you can sit there and you can drill and you can talk about all the X's and O's and all these things. And I hear coaches do this all the time. But if you don't have some of those other characteristics that you are developing within your players or individuals that allow them to be a team, to connect as a team, to push, to actually say, I'm not the most important thing, but actually the goal that we're striving for is, then they're never going to reach their potential. That's the thing you're missing. All right. And so we have to understand the two, and we have to understand the two and how they play together. All right. One, you're only going to go so far. Why is it, here's a great question for you to reflect on it. Why is it that there is some kids that aren't as big, right? Might not have the stature, might not have the physical ability, might not have the physical strength, might not have all these things, but then they outperform individuals who actually maybe get all the specialized coaching and might actually have the physical ability and might actually have more strength. Why does that happen? We know it's because it's the mental and the moral, the pushing, I'm willing to give more because I'm pulling from a reservoir or a space that's not just the X's and O's and the skills. It's so much more. It's what informs the X's and O's, right? And we can see this. We can see this, but the problem that we have with this is that you can't always quantify it. You can't always put your finger on it. You can't always go, oh, that's it. The X's and O's here, this is the thing, right? And that's what makes us comfortable, but we struggle sometimes to dig into that other side. We struggle sometimes to get into that moral component, all right? And the way that I would say morality at the end of the day, I'm not trying to say one way or what. Morality is your alignment with the overall program. That's how I define morality. If I'm working with a team and we're talking about performance to moral skills, we're talking about the performance to the maximizing skills, and I talk more maximizing than moral. What I am saying is the maximizing skills come down to how aligned are you with the team? What's your alignment? If there's vision for this team, if there's a reason for this team, if there's core values within this team, if there's a cultural blueprint, I know we have all these different languages around this, right? But if you are aligned with who we say we are and our identity, and how much are you willing to give to reinforce that and live that out, that's where your alignment, your maximizing character, like it has to be aligned there, okay? And I think all too often with coaches is we spend like maybe one team meeting on this. We might talk a little bit with our coaching staff behind the scenes. We might start the season off with here's who we are and this is what we want to do, but then we never talk about it again. And the thing with character, and this is the big thing that I want to hit right now, as we broke that down a little bit. When you think about character, where does character come from? Okay. It comes from initially, right? Stating an intent or putting it out there and then beginning to focus on that thing. So for example, right, we'll use maybe service, right? I want to be more humble or service, or I want to be, I don't know, I'm using words that people are like, oh, not on a team, right? But these are connectors. That's what we need to understand. Some of these moral alignment things are connectors. It's about bringing people together. All right. But even the idea of, service, I'm willing to serve other people. I'm willing to give to other people, right? That's a moral connector. Okay. That idea, like you might have a group of people that are not like that. And that is completely fine. Name it, highlight it. Hey man, we're a bunch of individuals. We're out for number one. That's one of the things we got to overcome, right? And so this is what it's going to look like for us to serve one another, for us to care for one another, for us to be there for one another, for us to sacrifice for one another, for us to all the things that we say are good for a team. And we're going to highlight that, and we're going to focus on that, and we're going to give attention to that, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to see how does that show up in different spaces. And then we're going to reward how that showed up in different spaces. And then we're going to highlight when somebody missed the opportunity to do that and how it could have benefited the team. And we're going to keep doing this over and over and over again. And we're going to keep this in the forefront, because when you think about that thing, and you keep it focused and you keep zoomed in on it, you begin to take action on that. And then when you begin to take action on it and you have behaviors around it, guess what that is? That's your character. You become that thing. You become the thing that you're focused on. All right. And that's where the missing piece, we think that, okay, man, like we just need this character trait and it's just going to boom, happen. No, you have to develop it within people. You have to focus on that and set scenarios up and highlight it and reward it and continue to talk about it and it to be a part of our identity and connect the dots and how it builds to where we're trying to go and keep weaving it in and out and having core conversations about it, because then you begin to take action on it. Then you begin to shape your behaviors on it. Then your habits begin to be like infused with it. And then all of a sudden you are the person in the people in the program that embodies that characteristic. That when people watch you on game film, they see these characteristics come out, right? It's no longer that you talk about it, it's that you're living it out. But it has to start with the talk. And it has to start with leaders saying and stating an intention that this is how we are going to show up. These are the things we're going to hold ourselves accountable. This is how we're going to evaluate ourselves, all right? And I'm challenging us to do that because I hear this conversation around character so often, but then we do nothing about it. We do absolutely nothing about it, right? We think that these like setting a vision or core values or holding ourselves accountable or having these conversations is just a waste of time. But what are you spending the most time on? Most coaches that I talk to, when we're talking about the missing pieces in the majority of conversations that they spend time with their coaching staff, and even when I'm involved with these things, it's around the lack of character, the lack of mental toughness, the lack of this, the lack of that, all around these pieces that you don't spend time on. You spend zero time on. Right. And some of the programs that actually, there's some people that might be, hey, we spend time on it. And I guarantee if you look at their win-loss record, it reflects there. When you look at the program over the last 6-7 seasons, there's success there. There's success. There's continuous success because that's what drives it. Character is what drives that. The continued success. It's what's driving the program. It's the who. The who is what is always going to drive the what. Right? We zoom in again on the what and we hammer that and it's like you need to be able to do that. But what we miss all too often is it's the who that informs the what. And when we actually slow down and we actually are intentional and we actually spend time developing the who and crafting that, that's when we can sustain the what over a longer period of time. All right. And so if you're an individual athlete and the what, in the X's and O's, you keep hitting a wall, you need to dive into who am I? How do I show up? This is something we talk about all the time from the individual perspective, because at the end of the day too, that's all you can control. That's all you can control. And that's all, like at the end of the day too, a strategy we use often is focusing on facts. Well, what are the facts? Well, the facts I am this, and this, I can have confidence in that and show up as that in every situation. And if I'm doing that and I'm doing that over and over and over again, I'm no longer thinking in those situations. To weave in the principle and the ideas around peak performance. Peak performance is when I'm not thinking. When I'm competing and I'm not thinking, I'm just fully engaged in the moment. And the way you do that is by knowing who you are and showing up that way every single day. It's knowing those characteristics and knowing those pieces and saying, this is who I am. This is how I show up. And I have full trust in that. And when things aren't going well, we can take a deep breath and we can go back to facts. And the facts are, this is who I am. This is how I show up. And boom, we keep moving. All right. And I'm talking about this today because for many programs right now, you're in the middle of, all right, man, we're getting ready. We're getting ready to get rolling. We're starting to build up especially for those fall sports. For some winter sports, things aren't going well. Things aren't where you wanted them to be throughout the winter. And this is a perfect opportunity to lean in right now and say, what were those missing things? All right. I know we take the missing pieces kind of approach to it, right? The things that are missing, we take that approach to it. And so what were the things that are missing, and what do we need to do moving forward? And I said this in the last podcast, that there's endless combinations to this. There's endless combinations to this success. But the thing is that doesn't mean you just don't do anything about it, all right? You've all heard that hope isn't a strategy, okay? And so being able to say, what are the characteristics that my program needs to embody, right? If you're a leader on the team, what are the characteristics that if we want to do all that we want to do, that we need to embody, and then start taking action towards those things. Okay. It's not a magic boom. This is what's going to happen, right? It takes time. It takes development. It takes over and over of the experiences of showing up that way. And even when it's tough, to be focused on those things and not making decisions solely based on feelings. And over time, you build the confidence of, oh, we are those people. We do that thing. Right? And so that's how it works. That's how you build this. Okay. And it's not an overnight thing. And it's not as easy as like, oh, if we change these two people around, or if coach gave them more playing time, or if this, that, like, man, we got to stop with that junk. We got to stop with this just instant, this is going to fix it all. Okay. It starts with who. And when you build the who and you build the overall identity of a program, and people are coming and being a part of that, and they're compelled to be a part of that, that's when it starts informing the what. That's when the skills start developing. That's when the ceilings start being broken. And that's when you look and you go, how are they doing that? And that's where we talk about a lot with physiology, is that's when 1 + 1 = 100. Where people go, how is this program doing this? How are they doing this, right? It's because it's who we are. It's embedded in who we are. It's our character. It's inherent in who we are. And so when we go out there, we know who we are and we execute, all right? And I know that's a desire for so many people, but it's sitting and leaning into this space that actually builds to that, okay? And we have to do a better job of actually, as coaches, highlighting, like, what do we want our players to look like? What is the characteristics that we want our program to have? Okay. And how do we build that within players? All right. It's not just one size. I'll tell this story. And one of the things that, I've been fortunate enough in my time is to be able to go and work with a lot of coaches. And I was at a coaching clinic, and I had one coach, at the end of the day, I just want to coach this sport, right? I'm not going to throw it out there, but it was at the collegiate level, and I just want to coach this sport. That's all I want to do is coach this sport. And I said, hey man, from my perspective, what I've experienced and what I'm seeing right now, it's no longer it, man. Like, if you just want to coach the X's and O's, and you want to win, I suggest you just get out of it. Just stop coaching, because that's not where we are anymore. That's not where we are anymore. That's not you. You can argue all you want that it's like this and that and all the who cares what the reasons are anymore? Stop wasting your time on that. Stop trying to evaluate why it isn't the way it is. It is the way it is. This is your reality. So what are you going to do with it? How are you going to develop this? How are you as a coach going to say, this is my coaching philosophy and this is how I'm going to go about it? Because what I have seen, what I've witnessed in my experience, and what has helped me become a way better coach is when I got into coaching, I thought it was all about what I knew about X's and O's. And when I actually made an impact and was able to truly develop athletes, and now get the opportunity to develop and help athletes maximize their ability on the court, is 100% in helping them develop who they are, their mindset around who they are, right? And then being able to figure out the strategies and skills to be able to bring that fully and experience that performance, right? And it's when I shifted from, it's not all the X's, you need to know the X's and O's, 100%. Right? You need to find the cutting edge, the competitive. Yes. Right. But get competitive on developing people, Get competitive on developing young men and women. Get competitive on figuring out how to help them recognize and become aware and get excited and have desire and motivation to keep bringing their best and becoming the best version of themselves. Not for the recognition of them being great at a sport, but for the satisfaction that they are bringing everything they can to whatever they're doing, right? That's where you are able to maximize and build a program. That's the mentality that we want to help build around these programs, all right? And that's the challenge. If you're somebody that continues to say, man, this is where you lean in. If you're somebody that continues to say like, hey man, the results, I think there's more in the tank. There's more we could do. This is where you got to lean in, all right? And that at the end of the day, what I want to challenge us with is that the character starts with what you help them focus on. And then from there, what actions you can connect them to move forward. All right. And so that's the conversation for today. That's the challenge for today, is that as you're either reflecting back on a season that, wasn't that great, or maybe it was great and you say, hey man, we want to up the ante. We want to keep doing better. Or maybe you say, here's the things that were really well. We need to double down. Highlight those things. Right. And be unapologetically those things, okay? And maybe you're looking ahead and saying, "Hey, we want to do better. There's more, and we think that there's more potential that we can capture, okay?" And highlight, what does that look like for your team? What characteristics do they need to embody to step into really being fully who they can be? All right, and be unashamed of naming that, right? Be unashamed of naming that. For me, my early coaching years, the initial as building, it was like, hey, here's what I think is important. And it was getting the guys that I was coaching to buy into that was important. And over time, giving them ownership of what they felt was important, but it was moving us in that direction. All right. And it's helping these young men and these young women like anchor into like who they want to be, right? And taking action on who they can become. And so I know character can be a really abstract thing, all right? And I hope that this conversation was really clarifying to be able to say, where do we start? Start with naming. What is the things? Start with making it a focus. Start with beginning each of your team meetings with these 3 things, these 4 things. Talk about how, it was reinforced, what you saw us do well at, where we failed at there, where we can increase the capacity to show up with those characteristics, how those characteristics are going to help us to where we want to go. Like begin the conversations and then go find more resources. Go find more people, connect with us too, right? If it helps to connect with us, let us know, all right, how we can help and further that conversation and continue to develop strategies and experiences and equip and support you in doing that, all right? And so, like always, like and subscribe, share this podcast, like pass along, guys. We want to keep bringing this information to you and helping support, equip you developing both sides of the coin. Both the individual mindsets of athletes and team members, but also the flip side of the overall mentality, how these things align together, all right? We want to help you guys be at your best and win, all right, by being at your best when it matters the most. That's our goal, all right? We want your athletic experience that you're able to bring everything you can to it. And at the end of the day, whenever that ship is sailed, whenever that journey is done, you are satisfied with everything you put into it, and the skills that you've developed in the process will help inform the rest of your life. All right. And so if this has been beneficial, please share this with other individuals. All right. Let this be a part of maybe a resource that continues to help your program and your teammates and individuals and even your coaching staff develop in their ability to be impactful and get everything they can out of the athletic experience. All right. And if there's in the future, if there's topics, conversations, things that you're like, hey, dive into this, we'd love to hear more on that, or give perspective, let us know. All right. We're also coming out with a bunch of content on YouTube. Okay. And I think it's at Coach D Hunt on YouTube. And we're connecting it at Meraki Perform social media platforms. We're connecting all that. And we're putting out a newsletter every week. You can connect with us via that. We're putting out a YouTube video every week to help athletes and connect there. We're just trying to be that resource for you guys. So if there's anything that we can do to support you and help you, let us know. And like always, greatness is within. Take action, okay? And nothing changes if nothing changes. And you 100% have the ability and have it within you to change.